Welcome to Study Isaiah, the podcast in which we examine the language, context, and meaning of the book of Isaiah with Dr. Paul Wegner. I'm Tyler Sanders, and with me is Paul, who's going to tell us the Hebrew word of the day.
All right, are we ready for this? This one, we've actually seen it several times, so I thought, well, let's do. This is your Redeemer. Goel is the participle part.
Okay.
Goel ka is what, or Goel ka is this one, your Redeemer.
Okay.
Okay, and I guess we often don't think of the word redeem means to buy back. And so he's the one that's bought Israel back. And so it becomes a major term for God's love for Israel, his name. And then Isaiah 54, verse 8, we're going to come across this soon. In an outburst of anger, I hid my face from you and for a moment. But with everlasting kindness, I will have compassion on you, says the Lord, your Redeemer. So there's where it comes through. And we've seen it so many times already.
Yeah.
But just to remind us, it actually means he's the one that brought us back from it was Egypt, and then it was Babylon.
In this term, we're speaking of coming back from Babylon, but that would have been appropriate for Egypt or probably anything,
and probably even for the next time, the next return, he's buying us out of sin and out of captivity and bringing us to Him. Yeah. So fits almost every category.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into the text.
All right.
Why don't you remind us where we are? Help us catch up a little bit.
Yeah. Here's our big. It's actually not a palistrophe this time, but it's our section from 49 to 57. So it's still got 9 chapters there. Mm-hmm. And we got to kind of the middle. There's no doubt that the middle of this, so it was building to the climax, and then we got to that forced servant song, which we talked about last time we were together. And from then on, now it's basing things upon that, it seems like. So it's got to its climax with chapter 52 and 53 there. Mm-hmm. Then he's going to have some ramifications because of what happened there, I think.
I see. And that's what we're covering today.
That's what we're covering
the
today.
Ramifications.
Yep.
Okay.
So it actually starts with Zion's glorious future. So what's going to happen for them in the future? And the reason is because here up until this point, they've been don't even know what the term is. They've been stuck in captivity, and now he's brought him out, and now he's even taken him out of the spiritual captivity. So we've got this servant that's not just going to take him out of the Babylonian captivity, but he's taking them out of the spiritual captivity. Right. Remember last time it talks about he was bruised for our iniquities and all of those things. So he's basically now talking about spiritual healing of these people. Yeah. So it got to there, and now he can now explain it, the glorious future for Zion, those who trust him and believe in him and all that. Yeah. So let me start. Let's go to chapter 54.
Okay.
And the first couple verses, shout, O barren one, you who have borne no child. Break forth into joyful shouting and cry aloud, you who have not travailed. For the sons of the desolate one will be more numerous than the sons of the married woman, says the Lord. So let me see if we understand that. Israel went into captivity. You would have thought that when they were in captivity, they wouldn't have many sons, right? Mm. But in actual fact, he says, you're going to have more sons after this captivity than you had before when you were married. And I assume the married was to God, because earlier we had seen this idea of them relationship was a marriage one with God. But they haven't kept their part of the bargain. Right. So what was happening is there was a remnant in that time period, but it wasn't a big remnant because a good share of them were wandering into sin and all that. But he says, now that we've got to this servant song and got to that point in God's plan, there's going to be more children now that are coming to him, coming to Israel than ever before. So it's, once again, it's a remnant, but it's going to be a remnant of Jews and Gentiles. We're going to find that out later, that's why it's going to be so many, is he's bringing them from everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay? So does that married woman desolate? I just want to make sure we understood that. Yeah. Because that one's kind of complicated at the beginning of it here.
Yeah.
Now it says, enlarge the place of your tent, stretch out the curtains of your dwellings, spare not, lengthen your cords, and strengthen your pegs. Now it's the image of a tent. Mm-hmm. And so here's Israel as a tent, and it's not going to be able to hold all the people that are in God's family now.
Yeah.
Because remember, a tent usually held a
Yeah.
family, so it's kind of a neat
Yeah.
image.
Yeah.
Okay. For you are to spread abroad to the right and to the left, and your descendants and will possess nations and will resettle in the desolate cities. So it's using. Remember how we talked about that prophetic vision into the future. So he's talking about a return from captivity, because he keeps saying you will resettle in those desolate cities. Well, they were desolate because they'd been carried off into captivity, right?
Right.
But now they're coming back, and now when they come back, there are going to be more of them than there ever was before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a neat image on how it starts.
Yeah, it's a great image.
Okay, does that all make sense?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it does to me.
When we get to verse 5, verse 4 says, "Fear not, for you will not be put to shame, and do not feel and do not feel humiliated, for you will not be disgraced. For you will forget the shame of your youth," meaning when Israel was younger, she wandered away from God and all that. Okay, and the reproach of your widowhood, probably going into captivity, you will remember no more. I would say the reason you won't remember it anymore is because God's going to bless them so much with multiple people and these great. He's talked about in this. We already talked about that feast that is going to be in this future time period, and the gifts that they're going to give. There's not going to be any more mourning, and there's not going to be any more death and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So those kind of things they can look forward to.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's our verse. That verse 5.
Yeah.
For your husband is your maker, whose name is the Lord of hosts, and your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel, who is called the God of all the earth. So here's verse 5 is once again kind of almost like a climax to this. He just talks about how many are going to come back and all that. But verse 5 talks about almost like the epitome. Here's your husband, okay, is your maker, the one who made you, the creator, God. Your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. So here's the reason why there's going to be so many children coming back. It's because God's promised you some great blessings, and He's going to fulfill them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you got there. He reminds them that he did have a moment when they were in captivity, and he was harsh to them. Look what he says. For the Lord has called you like a wife forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a wife of one's youth when she is rejected, says your God. For a moment I forsook you, but with great compassion I will gather you. In an outburst of anger I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness I will have compassion on you, says the Lord your Redeemer. So he admits that there was that moment of captivity when he's allowing them to be punished, so he wasn't looking upon them, but now he's turned his face back towards them, and with overflowing forever loving kindness.
Yeah.
So it's giving that the plan. And I assume that once we got to that servant song, now he can pour out his plan for the rest of what's going to come.
Yeah.
And you can see it's actually pretty good.
Yeah. It's fascinating here that it's referred to as a brief moment.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
70 years doesn't seem too brief to us, does it?
Right. Yeah. For them, it probably felt very incredibly long.
That's right. But in God's mind, because that would be so short compared to the everlasting blessings we're going to have.
Yeah.
So it is kind of neat.
Yeah.
All right. Look at verse 9. For this is like the days of Noah to me, when I swore to that the waters of Noah would not flood the earth again. So I have sworn with you, I will not be angry with you, nor will I rebuke you. See, I actually think that's kind of an amazing promise, right? Because we look at the rainbow and remember that God's never going to flood the earth again. We look now at this captivity, and God says, I'm never going to do that to you again. From now on,
right,
I'm going to restore you, and I won't ever rebuke you again.
Yeah,
that's kind of a neat promise. I think
that's a good. It's a good callback, to probably the most famous promise in Scripture, maybe,
And if that's true, then imagine what that encouragement that must be for them.
Yeah,
look at the rainbow. I'm never going to flood the earth again. Look at this captivity. I'm never going to have to go through that again.
It's over,
Yeah. I think that's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For the mountains may be removed, the hills may shake, but my loving kindness will not be removed from you. My covenant of peace will not be shaken. Thus says the Lord who has compassion on you. So if they were ever worried about going through this captivity again or another one, don't have to worry. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's kind of we've got one more section in this chapter, but he's just basically talking about the same thing almost. Oh, afflicted one, storm tossed and not comforted. Behold, I will set your stones in antimony and lay your foundations. I will lay them in sapphires. Behold, I will make your battlements of rubies. So here's all the blessings that God says He's going to pour out on them.
Yeah.
Okay, and then look at the last verse 17. Or let's do 16. Behold, I myself have created the smith who blows the fire of the coals and who brings out a weapon for its work, and have created this destroyer to ruin. So he's saying, I'm the one that made all that stuff. No weapon that is formed against you will prosper, and every tongue that accuses you in judgment you will condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their vindication is from me, declares the Lord. So God is going to be their protection there, and he's the one that made the weapons anyway. So he says, "Don't worry,
Yeah.
I'm the one also that's going to protect you."
Yeah. Right.
Okay,
Right.
so that's that chapter talking about. Okay, we've got this. There's going to be numerous children. I'm going to protect your city. It's going to be glorified. Like he does it by telling all the different kinds of stones that their foundation is going to be made in.
Yeah.
And then says, and no one is ever going to come against you with weapons of war or anything like that, because I'm the one that made those people that made them, and I'm not going to let them do that again.
Yeah.
So that's Zion's glorious future.
Yeah, and it's a good description of like the type of deliverance they're going to get.
And remember like 53 when we were talking about that, it was talking about their healing and spiritual healing and all that. Well, now this is just compounding that, how that it's using physical terms to talk about the restoration that God will have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, once chapter 53 happened, now based upon what we had in that servant song, now he can offer forgiveness and restoration to everybody. Look what he says.
Yeah.
Ho, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. You who have no money, come and buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money, without cost. Why do you spend money that is not what is not bread, and your wages that does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good and delight yourself in abundance. So it's using figures of speech to talk about salvation, and he's offering it, it seems like to me, to everyone free of cost, now based upon what the servant had done.
Yeah.
So now he can offer it.
No, it's interesting. What? It's a little weird. Like, come buy this, even if you don't have money.
Yeah.
So what is that? How do those two things even like work together?
Well, I think I'm assuming that this is like a peddler in the streets calling out, and maybe some people have even said more. Through the ancient Near East, people would go out and sell water. So here's somebody calling out in the streets to come and get this. Only it's got to be a shocker, because nobody sells stuff for nothing.
Yeah.
Except this guy is. So he's offering this deliverance for free.
Come get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there's kind of something neat in a minute, but let me show you. He's going to connect it to the everlasting covenant. He's making an everlasting covenant with them.
Yeah.
So he's offering it, what sounds like to anybody, forever, but there's a catch later. Let me show you. Incline your ear and come to me. Listen that you may live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, according to the faithful mercies shown to David. I assume what it's trying to show is that there's a connection with his faithful mercies that he showed to David as going to be this everlasting covenant with them.
Yeah.
So remember how David is always going to have somebody to sit on the throne and forever. And that's, I think Jesus picks up that being on David's throne and carries it on forever. Well, I think this everlasting covenant now is to us saying that if you accept this offer of salvation, it has eternal ramifications. So I think that's what it's getting at.
Yeah.
Okay? Behold, I have made him a witness to the peoples. Now, it's a little uncertain. Is this talking about David, the him, or is it the offspring of David.
Okay.
So it could
Yeah.
even go to the Messiah
Yeah.
kind of idea.
Yeah.
But so it's hard to know who the him is. But I think either way, if it's David, that makes fine because David at his time was demonstrated God's love for him and this everlasting covenant that God had made with him. But then if it's the Messiah, it could be one of David's offspring now is going to continue this on forever.
Yeah.
So either one in my mind is okay.
Yeah.
A leader, a commander for the people. Behold, you will call a nation you do not know, and a nation which knows you not will run to you because of the Lord your God, even the Holy One of Israel, for he has glorified you. So I think what he's saying is that here's Israel who's going to be this nation that God's called, but he says there's going to be more in that nation than that, some that don't even know you.
Yeah.
So that I think is the hint that the Gentiles are going to come in
Yeah.
also. So
Yeah.
he's saying, a nation you didn't even know is going to come to you. So that's going to be more people than just the nation of Israel, like he started with.
Right.
Okay? Now, look at the next one. Seek the Lord, verse 6. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. Let him return to the Lord, and he will have compassion on him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. So what's interesting is verse 6 seems to say, there, if he's saying, seek the Lord while he may be found, that almost suggests that there's a time when he won't be found, right? Or call upon him while he's near. It almost sounds like there's going to be a time when he's not near. So it seems like to me that this offer for this free gift of deliverance or salvation that he offered in the first part is only for a limited time. There will be a time when it won't be offered anymore. So you better grab it while it comes by you.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of neat in the sense that salvation is like that, right?
Right.
There's certain times that God woos our hearts and stuff like that. We better not let it go by. We better grab it as it's coming because it may not be offered forever.
Right.
Or we may not have that chance of accepting it forever.
Yeah.
I assume what that means is that at some point he's coming back. So after he comes back, there's no chance of you
Right.
getting then. So anyone who hasn't accepted it up to that point is not going to get it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's getting at. There is a temporary time when this salvation is offered. There's going to be a time when it's not offered anymore.
Yeah.
So it's scary, but it also makes
Yeah.
perfect sense when
Right.
you think about it.
Right. Right.
Okay? All right. Then verse 8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Now, why did he say that at that point? He's calling out and offering this salvation starting at the beginning of that chapter, then says, but there's going to be a time when it won't be offered anymore. And then he says, but my ways are higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts. Why would he bring that up now? I think the answer is because his way of salvation is not what we would have thought. It's not exactly how we would have done it.
Yeah.
And we would have, if he's offering it to people who want it for a limited time, and then it's not offered anymore.
Yeah.
So I think what it's saying is, man, I'm sure all of us would want a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance.
Right.
He's saying that's not the way it works.
Right.
It's offered once, and you offer it and you get it when it's near. After that, it's no longer possible. And I assume he's talking also about the ramifications of that salvation, in that some of you are going to be saved, but some of them are going to go to judgment. And that's when he says, well, my thoughts are high above your thoughts and greater than yours, meaning, again, it's good. He understands it's right that there'll be some that accept it and some that don't accept it.
Yeah.
That's what I think he's getting at when he brings this up. It's trust me, this is the right way. But boy, it's often hard for us to get a handle on why he's doing it that way. And he's saying, well, trust me, it's the right way.
Right. Because that is, I guess, that maybe is the universalist complaint.
Yeah.
There's good news. Why wouldn't shouldn't mercy be offered to everybody?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't God do that?
Yeah.
But, I think what we see, of course, in the Bible is like there's an element of human response to salvation. And it seems like we're kind of getting that picture here.
Yeah.
That there is kind of it's weird to say there's a condition because God's grace doesn't, it's unconditional, but there also is an element of obedience.
And maybe what we should say, not a condition, but what it is there's a limit. At some point, it's not going to be offered anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that means verse 6 of chapter 55 is really, really important. And it's interesting. It starts off with a call to everyone, right?
Yeah,
Come get this free gift of salvation, but realize it's for a limited time because that offer won't always be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's talking about, and my ways are higher than your ways. So I'm the one that's made this plan. You better just trust it.
Yeah.
That it's the right way.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? It's quite a chapter.
It is, yeah.
Okay. Now look at verse 10. For as the rain and the snow come from heaven and do not return without watering the earth and making it bear and sprout, and furnishing seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so will my word be which goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty. I'm assuming if he was the one that was calling at the beginning of this, when he says there's going to be some that get saved. So I think it's saying, I've told you this is going to happen. I've already told you about the servant that's doing this job for you. And guess what? It's going to happen. And it's when it goes forth from my mouth, it's going to accomplish what it's supposed to do. So I think it's saying there's going to be some that actually make it. And even though it's a limited time, I'm bringing the ones that I want to be there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's an interesting chapter how it fits together.
Yeah.
Okay. Now verse 12: for you will go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains will and hills will break forth with shouts of joy before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. I don't know if you remember, but that's we had seen that before in like chapter 35. A similar, almost the exact same. It sounds like a song talking about the praise that Israel's going to receive, in the sense that they're praising God for this deliverance that he's got. And now you see it again, almost the exact same terms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, instead of a thorn bush, the cypress will come up. Instead of the nettle, the myrtle will come up, and it will be a memorial to the Lord for an everlasting sign which will not be cut off. So it's saying, don't worry, this is going to happen. And even though when it's talking about, instead of a thorn bush, you're going to have a cypress. Instead of a nettle, you're going to have myrtle. And so it's saying where before you had this punishment, now you're going to have restoration. And it's going to be so much better than it was before.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that ties back into, I guess like in an imagery way, it seems to tie back into, what we had seen about like kind of vineyards falling apart and like turning into desolation.
Sure.
But you need someone there to kind of manage it and make sure it works well. And like now, the nettles are gone.
Yeah.
Right. And there's like a plant you want there.
Yeah. And a lot of these images are how much better this future for Israel is going to be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's really good.
All right. So we've just made it through Zion's glorious future. That was in 54. We've got now this call for salvation to come and accept it. And we've got, it's talking about the most important thing here is the call is to everybody. Yeah. But we now know that only a certain amount of people are going to get it, and it's not offered forever. It's a limited time. Yeah. And then now we've got now to there. Now we've got it. The next part of the chapter is still in this section. Thus says the Lord, preserve justice and do righteousness, for my salvation is about to come, and my righteousness is about to be revealed. How blessed is the man who does this, the son of man who takes hold of it, who keeps from profaning the Sabbath and keeps his hand from doing evil. So it sounds like to me what's happening is chapter 55, it's helping clarify what does it mean to actually take this gift of salvation that's offered. He's talked about it. He's said it's only going to be for a limited time, and now he says what it's really going to take to actually once you get it, what it's going to be like. Right. So so take hold of it. And here's the person who's done that: one who keeps from profaning the Sabbath and keeps his hand from doing evil. So he's saying these are the kind of things that it's going to affect your life. These are the kind of things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, he's also, so remember, it sounded like it was to everybody at for the chapter.
Right.
Now he's going to talk about people that under the old law didn't have a chance. So the first one, let not the foreigner who has joined himself to the Lord say, the Lord will surely separate me from his people, nor let the eunuch say. So two people, oh wait, I'll make sure, nor let the eunuch say, behold, I'm a dry tree. Do you understand what that? The idea they
Right,
can't have offspring, so they're a dry tree.
Yeah.
Okay, but he says, don't say that, because those people that under Old Testament law, these are two people that wouldn't have a chance at this salvation. He's saying, if you've got faith in me, if you are the ones that demonstrate keeps from profaning the Sabbath and keeps his hand from doing evil, that's kind of like a summary of what God expects from you if you're going to accept this salvation. These are the kind of things you need to do. He says, well, for a person who's believed in that, it's saying, don't worry whether you're a foreigner or a eunuch. Both of them are going to come. And then he's going to explain it more. For thus says the Lord, for the eunuch who keeps my Sabbaths and who chooses what pleases me and holds fast to my covenant. So here's a eunuch that does all these things. To them I will give in my house and within my walls a memorial, a name better than than of sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name which cannot be cut off. So see, remember, that's the thing that a eunuch, that's their biggest fear.
Right, yeah.
That when they die, nobody's going to remember them.
Right.
God says, well, don't worry. For you who follow after me and do what I want you to do, I'm going to give you a name better than that, and I'm going to make it so that you have a memorial in the temple. It will never be cut off.
Yeah.
So do you see? So what a amazing hope for even somebody who under Old Testament guidelines wouldn't have a chance to have an intricate relationship with God. Now they have that chance.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's only the first one. Then here's the foreigner. Also the foreigner who has joined himself to the Lord to minister to him and in the name of the Lord, and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, everyone who keeps from profaning the Sabbath and holds fast to my covenant. Let me just say, notice both of them. It told them, don't profane my Sabbath and hold fast to my covenant.
Yeah.
I think what is going on is remember, that's one thing they couldn't do in exile. So they didn't even have a chance to do that because there was no temple that they could offer sacrifices and stuff like that. So the only thing they could do was actually worship God on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing that in exile they could do to show their obedience to him. So I think it becomes kind of like almost like the epitome of how to demonstrate their love for God in this new time period too. It was to do what they were doing back in the exile when there was nothing else they could do but show obedience to God in the Sabbath or by the Sabbath. So I think that's why it's picked up here and said, "Oh, well, do it now."
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting, something they couldn't do before, and now it's almost like a characteristic of what they should be doing.
Yeah. Right.
And I said they couldn't do it. If they had love for God, they would keep the Sabbath, and that's about the only thing they could do to show their love for God. And so I think it's continuing on in this next section too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Even those I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in the house of my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar. So they're going to have full access to God. I think that's what that's getting at. Okay. For my house will be called the house of prayer for all peoples. So see, even those that didn't have a chance in the Old Testament, foreigners and eunuchs, now can be accepted and have full access because my house will be called the house of prayer for all peoples.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so I think that's actually kind of interesting. We've now gone through Zion's glorious future. We've now gone who's it offered to and what it's going to look like for those who it is offered to.
Yeah.
And now we've got almost like the slam dunk. Okay, so if in chapter 56 it talks about who can actually accept this, now from verse 9 on, it's going to talk about people who are not going to get it. So there's now it's emphasizing more that but there's a limited time to it.
Yeah.
And the offer, it goes out, but not everybody's going to accept it. And now you're going to find out, here's the ones that don't accept it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So starting at verse 9, all you beasts of the field, all you beasts of the forest, come and eat. His watchmen are blind. All of them know nothing. All of them are mute dogs, unable to bark.
Wow.
Well, yeah. So who's his watchmen? So I assume the his are God's, right?
Yeah.
So who are God's watchmen? Well, they're blind and they're mute dogs, unable to bark. So the very thing that a watchman should be, that's their job.
Yeah.
Their job is to be able to see what's coming and then tell the other people how to get out of it.
Yeah.
He's saying that God's watchmen are worthless.
Yeah.
So
Well, that last line in 10,
Yeah.
dreamers lying down who love to slumber.
Yeah.
They're asleep at the wheel. They're not
Yeah.
paying attention.
Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he's talking about the other side now. So here he just got done talking about those who are being obedient to him, that remnant that's going to carry on forever.
Yeah.
But there's also the other side of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And look at verse 11. And dogs are greedy. They have not. They are not satisfied. They are shepherds, but have no understanding. They have all turned to their own ways, each one to his unjust gain, and to the last one. Come and say, let us get wine, let us drink heavily of strong drink, and tomorrow will be like today, only more so. That's so it's actually taken up the same image that he used for
Yeah.
offering it to the people that would accept it.
Yeah.
Now he's saying, "Oh, come, let us get wine and drink," but it's going to have almost like a damning effect to him,
Yeah.
because he says, "And tomorrow will be like today, only more so." So they think God's judgment that he talked about is,
Right.
and we'll always have this chance to actually accept this salvation.
Yeah.
But guess what? He's saying, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I've already told you there's a limited time. These guys think it's going to go on forever,
Yeah.
and it's not.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. So this is seeing the other side of it now, the
Yeah.
wicked side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And now we're not done. The righteous man perishes. I'm in chapter 57 now. The righteous man perishes, and no man takes it to heart. The devout men are taken away, while no one understands. For the righteous man is taken away from evil. I think that's interesting. So here's righteous people are taken away, and the wicked people don't even notice it's happening. But it says, "For the righteous man is taken away from the evil." So while these people are down here on earth in this wickedness, he's saying the righteous ones are being taken away so that they're going to be delivered from this evil.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. He enters into peace, and they rest in their beds. Each one will walk in his upright way. But come here, you sons of sorcerers, and offspring of adulterers and of prostitutes, just against whom you jest, against whom do you open your mouth wide and stick out your tongue? That's like mocking, I'm assuming that is. Okay. Are you not children of rebellion, offspring of deceit, who inflame themselves among the oaks under every luxuriant tree, who slaughter children in the ravines under the cliffs of the crag? Now, let me just stop there. This is false worship. Remember, when it talks about among the oaks, it means in those high places. Yeah. And then when it says under every luxuriant tree, earlier he has talked about them going there and offering their sacrifices under these trees or around them. So he's basically saying it's those people that are doing that. Now, that's not all. Look what who slaughtered children in the ravines.
Yeah.
As I understand,
It's like sacrifice.
yeah, child sacrifice.
Wow.
And my understanding is they did it to the false gods, but they did it in there's a place called Kidron Valley was called a garbage dump. In the New Testament, it's talked about as Gehenna.
Yeah.
Okay. My understanding is that Valley of Ben Hinnom was the place where they offered children sometimes to the gods. And so I think this is what he's saying, who slaughtered children in the ravines. So I think that's in that place of Ben Hinnom Valley where they offered these their children to false gods.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
so it's making it real clear.
Yeah.
Under the crags of under cliffs of the crags, just in the rocky places, among the smooth stones of the ravine is your portion. They are your lot. The smooth stones must be work stones that they made altars out of. So I think that's what that's talking about. So in those ravines, you made these altars to these false gods, and that's going to be your portion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Even to them you have poured out a drink offering. So that's helping confirm
Yeah,
that. You have made a grain offering. Shall I relent concerning these things? Upon a high and lofty mountain you have made your bed. You went up there to offer sacrifice. Oh, let me just stop. He says, shall I relent concerning these things? I think that's saying, do you think that those wicked people don't deserve the punishment they're getting? And I'm sure the answer to that is, of course they do.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So he's not going to call it off because they deserve it. All right. Upon the high and lofty mountains, you've made your bed. That's the high places again. You went up there to offer sacrifices. So he's saying, you went to the false gods, not me.
Yeah.
You're going to receive the punishment.
Yeah.
It even goes further. Behind the door and the doorpost, you have set up your sign. Indeed, you're far removed from me. You have even uncovered yourself. When it says on the behind the door or doorpost, you've set up your sign, I assume that's some kind of a altar or something like that to these false gods, whatever this sign is.
Yeah.
But then it goes on, you've uncovered yourself. You've gone up, made your bed wide. You have made yourself, you've made an agreement for yourself with them. You have loved their bed. You have looked on their manhood. These are the false gods. So I think what it's saying, almost like, it's like talking about like a husband and wife would
in intimacy.
Yeah. And he's saying, well, instead of having that with me, you had that with your false idols.
Yeah.
Okay. So it goes back to that. Do you think they should I call off my punishment? No way.
Yeah.
Right? They deserve it. You can see it. You have journeyed to the king with oil and increased your perfumes. You have sent your envoy a great distance to make them go down to Sheol. This is funny because this sounds like it's going back to that time when they called on other people's helps, like they went to Egypt to get Egypt's help to deliver them. I think this is it. You've gone to these other kings for help. You've never come to me. So I think that's why. You have sent your envoy a great distance and made them go down to Sheol, meaning it's not going to help. You're going to go down to destruction or to the grave.
Yeah.
Because you thought you could get an alliance with Egypt. It's not going to help you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You were tired out by the length of your road, yet you did not say, it is hopeless. You found renewed strength, therefore you did not faint. I think that's interesting. Yeah. So they went to all extents possible to go to these foreign people to get their help and all that. And all they had to do was come to God. Yeah. They didn't have to take this long travel to get other people's help. All they had to do is go to God.
Yeah.
And they refused to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Look at verse 13. When you cry out, let your collection of idols deliver you, but the wind will carry all of them away, and a breath will take them away. But he who takes refuge in me will inherit the land and will possess my holy mountain. So all of that up to that point was talking about the wicked people, what was going to happen to them. Yeah. But there's one little verse tucked in there or one little part of a verse tucked in there that says, "But those who rely on me, they're going to be delivered."
Yeah.
Okay. Now he's going to talk more about the righteous. So that was the turning point. So here's what's happened to the wicked. Now let's see what happens to righteous. And it will be said, build up, prepare a way, remove every obstacle out of the way of my people. For thus says the high and exalted one, who lives forever, whose name is holy. I dwell on a high and holy place, and also with the contrite and lowly of spirit, in order to revive the spirit of the lowly and to revive the heart of the contrite. So that's basically what he's saying. The wicked were trusting on themselves or on other people to deliver them. I'm with the people who are contrite of heart and come to me.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's pretty clear that he's now talking about the righteous remnant that's now coming back to God.
Yeah.
Okay? I will not contend forever, nor will I always be angry, for the spirit will grow faint before me, and the breath of those whom I have made. Because of the iniquity of the unjust gain, I was angry and struck them, and I hid my face and was angry, and I went out turning my way in the way of his heart. I have seen his ways, but I will heal him. I will lead him and restore comfort to him, and to his mourners, and creating the praise of his lips. Peace, peace to him who is far and to him who is near. Says the Lord, I will heal him. Okay, so it's talking about God delivering the righteous, and even though he goes back and says, "Okay, I realized I was angry for a while, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to deliver you." And then verse 18 and 19 seems like to me, "I have seen his ways, but I will heal him." That sounds like it's more God doing. He's chosen or he's
Right.
made a decision
Yeah.
to heal them, even though they're in.
They've messed up too.
Yeah. So it sounds like here, even though they've messed up, I've made a choice. I'm going to deliver them.
Yeah.
Okay. Creating the praise of his lips, peace, peace to him who is far and to him who is near. So there, when Hebrew multiplies words, like peace would mean peace, right?
Yeah.
But if you multiply peace, peace, that's almost like perfect peace. It's like an emphatic. And so you could even say perfect peace to him who is far and to him who is near.
Wow.
So he's actually saying, here's those people that were once far away. I'm bringing them into this perfect peace with me.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm assuming who the far away are the Gentiles, right?
Right.
And I'm assuming the ones who are near are the Israelites.
Right.
So I think it's hinting at both groups are going to have peace, this perfect peace with me.
Together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
All right. But the wicked are like the tossed sea. It cannot be quiet, and its waters toss up refuge in mud. There's no peace, says my God, for the wicked. And there's that refrain again.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've just got to the end. Now, what I wanted to do is we've got to the end of our section, but I haven't talked to you about the seam that was at the end yet.
Yeah. Right.
So
right.
let's look at. I actually argue that the seam starts at verse. Actually, it probably starts a little before, like 13b, where it talks about the righteous.
Yeah.
Where it says, "But him who takes refuge in me will inherit the land and will possess my holy mountain." So you've got this restoration. What's going to happen to you could.
What are we looking for in a seam again?
Yeah.
There's a restoration.
Restoration, a remnant being saved.
Yeah.
And a wicked are punished.
Okay, yeah.
What I think is interesting is the remnant being saved. You wouldn't need to mention that anymore.
Yeah.
But he keeps doing it.
Right.
Like here. But the one who takes refuge in me will inherit the land. He wouldn't have needed to talk about, and remember earlier he talked about those who are contrite of, in verse 15, and also the contrite and lowly of spirit.
Yeah.
And so those are who the remnant are. They're gonna be saved.
Yeah.
So there's a restoration. He talks about build up, prepare the way, remove every obstacle out of the way of my people. So that's the restoration. And then he talks about this remnant that's going to be saved. He started in chapter 13 or verse 13b. Okay, those who take refuge in him. But 15 highlights it again.
Yeah.
Okay, and then he's from verse 20 on. He talks. Well, in fact, the righteous are talked, or the remnant is probably talked about all the way from verse 15 all the way down to verse 19, because it's that whole section.
Yeah.
But then verses 20 and 21 talk about the wicked.
Yeah,
Now,
punishment, yeah.
why are the wicked brought? You would have thought it's built to a climax. Here, God's going to deliver the righteous.
Yeah.
He'd already talked about the wicked, so why bring them up again? And I think the answer is because it's the seam.
It's a seam.
It needs to pull all those seams together, or those
themes
together,
Yeah.
and he does so at that very end there.
Yeah.
So that's how I see those seams working.
Right, yeah.
And in one sense, it'll also prepare it for the next section that's coming, because it's highlighting the same things again.
Yeah.
But what I like is that my division of the book here is totally different than most scholars. And even though they see that refrain, they don't see it as a major dividing point of the book.
Yeah.
And I don't quite understand that. They've made a break, at the end of 56. And I understand that, after 56, because he's talking about this call to everybody, and then the remnant is going to, this eunuchs and foreigners can come. Well, I understand that could make a lot of sense to break it there. But it seems like to me, he's still got to talk about the wicked, what's going to happen to them. And so this next section talks about that. He's going to highlight what's going to happen to the righteous again. And then this seam pulls it all together, those ideas, and talks about them. So I think rather than making the break at 56, they need to realize that here's this seam at the end of that now pulls those themes together, even though you wouldn't need these connected to that section before.
Yeah.
If this really is a seam, it needs it here because he's going
Right.
to re-go over those
Yeah.
same ideas.
It's kind
one
of a
more
refrain
time.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only lots bigger.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But then it ends with our real refrain.
Yeah.
So,
right.
well, that's our section for today.
Yeah. And that's the end of another big hunk.
Yeah, because after this, we're going to have the last 9 chapters.
Yeah.
Okay. And they are quite interesting, and they're really talking about the restoration again that God's bringing. So we've already, remember, each of these have already talked about that theme and about that. But once you got chapter 3 and 52 and 3, that's for servant song.
Yeah.
Now he can offer this salvation to everybody, and he tells them what it really is. It's
Right.
those who love me and are gonna in his mind, it's not profaning the Sabbath and keeping my commandments. Okay, so that's how they demonstrate this obedience to him.
Yeah.
And then we've got it getting all the way to end, reminding us that there's going to be some that aren't going to make it. So there's going to be righteous ones that do, but there's going to be wicked ones that don't. And so he's got this saved remnant that's actually going to make it.
It's interesting. It takes I don't think I would say that before this section it was not a spiritual book, but it does seem much more metaphorically spiritual, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
recently.
and I think you can have that now that you've got that for servant song.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's very fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. So next week or next episode, we need to cover a couple more chapters.
Yeah.
In a new section.
Yeah.
It looks like some of these are actually pretty short. We want to try to do 3 or 4 of these or so?
Why don't we try to get to chapter 61?
Okay. 261 or 361?
Let's do let's see. Yeah. No, let's get through 61.
Through 61. Okay. That's good homework.
Now, once again, we don't have a palistrophe in this time, so we're not building to something. But it does look like to me we've got a climax starting to happen.
Okay.
But what we have is some really interesting pronoun problems that we've got to figure out who's talking. So, so as you're reading it through, try to
look for pronouns.
Yeah, look for the first person pronouns and see who's it referring to.
Okay, that's a good challenge. Okay, well, let's pick that up next week.
Okay,
that's it. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Dr. Wegner. And I guess we'll meet up next time as we continue to study Isaiah.